Gruesome Magazine.
Hello. Oh, hey, what's that? Let's get that out of the way. Hello, once again. I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts, Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we're reviewing, you guessed it, you saw in the beginning, SKINAMARINK. Oh, boy. All right, joining me this week are my co-hosts, starting off with Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. How you doing?
I'm like, Skinamarink, dinky ding.
I was going to ask if everybody remembered that song. That was huge when my kids were little.
I'm pretty sure that's where it came from.
Sharon, Lois, and Brom. I remember them well.
So apparently that song is like really old and has been in like lots of things. But that's, I think, the only thing I remember it from. So apparently this writer-director as well.
That must have hit a nerve somewhere. All right, also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Just finished playing with Legos in the dark, but other than that, doing good.
In the dark. Well. There's a song in there somewhere. I'm
Okay,
sure of it.
I think that was a Dio song.
Oh, boom. All right, also joining us, rounding out the crew, is the one and only Dave Dreher.
We'll know Doc's sick when he can't do that. He just introduces me normally. So, yeah, I'm great to hear that Crystal remembered that song, because that makes me feel better that I'm not the only old fart. Or a young kid, not an old fart, is the only one who remembers it.
Yeah, but like that was so popular. I remember the lamb chop, the puppet thing that she
I remember from the Sharon, Lois, and Brom. It was a kid show. It had an elephant on it. I don't know. My girls watched it. My oldest girl's probably
I thought it was
just
like
a little
Sherry
younger
Lewis.
than you. So
I'm so stupid.
No, Sherry Lewis. That's going way back.
Yeah, I remember the
I don't
puppet.
want to.
That was
know any about.
That was the song that doesn't end. You remember that one? This is the song that doesn't end.
I'm too young for all this. I only know Justin Bieber. That's all I know.
You know, I saw Justin Bieber in concert. Did any of y'all see him in concert? He was really good in concert. I'm just saying.
Absolutely not. All right, what we're here to do tonight is we're going to review SKINAMARINK. We're going to start off giving you our first impression. You're going to want to hang out for that. And then we're going to discuss the film. The first impressions will be spoiler free. And then we'll discuss the film. And we might do a spoiler.
You have to have an understanding of it to be a spoiler.
What is there to spoil?
I don't know. But then we'll wrap things up with our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Oh boy!
Good luck.
Wow.
Good luck, people. Good luck.
We hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend button. It'll help us greatly, especially reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Every little click helps. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's take a look at the card and get this on the road, shall we? SKINAMARINK 2023. I guess it's 2022, but we'll call it 2023 because we want to. Available in theaters beginning January 13th of 2023. Available on Shudder eventually this year. I'm not sure when. Synopsis is 2 children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father is missing, and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. Written and directed by Kyle Edward Ball. The stars Jamie Hill, Lucas Paul, and Ross Paul. SKINAMARINK. All right. This is going to be so much fun. Dave! I'm so glad you're here.
I knew you were going to.
Why don't you start us off? What was, pray tell, your first impression of SKINAMARINK?
Well, short and swimple.
Simple.
I hated this movie.
Oh!
Well, you know what? That's maybe a little harsh. I didn't understand this movie. So let's go there. So because of I don't understand it, I hated it. It is a bizarre movie. I think the premise is terrifying, of 2 little kids waking up and parental units are gone and all the doors and windows aren't there. That sounds terrifying to me. And then instead what we get is this movie of people's feet and Legos and camera angles shot at the ceiling. And I don't know how we're supposed to be, what's our point of view? Are we seeing this through someone's eyes? Are there just random cameras around the apartment? I don't know. I did not get it. And to be 100% honest, I could not finish this movie. I couldn't. I got to what 20 minutes left, 15 minutes left, and I just couldn't do it anymore because
Just when it was getting good.
Like I said, you guys were teasing me in the pre-show about it, but this has no. I don't know. I don't get it. Crystal says she likes it, so I'm hoping she can explain it to me, and maybe I can watch it again and enjoy it. But this was a complete waste of time for me.
Oh, ow, ooh, ow. Well, we'll start out 2023 with wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Crystal. Well, Dave took some of your thunder, but hey,
Oh,
that
I don't
happens.
care. Yeah.
What was
Dave
your first
can take
impression?
my thunder anytime.
There you go.
Okay, so I get it. This film is most definitely not for everyone. It is experimental filmmaking. It's analog horror, which is like that lo-fi, low quality VHS sort of style. That alone is definitely not for everyone. It's about these two kids, like he mentioned, Kaylee and Kevin, and most of the shots are stagnant, and they are incredibly dark, and it's hard to see, and the sound quality it's so interesting because a lot of the voices are muffled and it's hard to hear, but some of the sounds were were chilling for me. Like, I will tell you that the main reason that I liked this film was not because of its exquisite cinematography or its sound design or the creepy bimbo's initiation, which that cartoon is freaky and it has always scared me since I was a kid. Okay. But it's because of the way the film made me feel. It made me feel uneasy and uncomfortable and trapped and a little scared, and I felt like a kid again. And it brought about like this kind of more primal fear that a lot of horror movies, actually I don't really get scared in a lot of horror movies. And I'm not saying I got scared during this one, but I felt unsettled and uncomfortable. And so that's really why I like this film. Not because it was that great to look at or see or view, but because of how I felt watching it and how I was on edge wondering what was going to happen. Now, with that being said, the film's too long. I think it absolutely can be a feature film, but I think, what was it, like 100 minutes or something? I think it could be one, like 70 minutes and
That
be
would be
just
so much
about
better.
right. Yeah. And so that would have made it, because the beginning of the film is excruciatingly slow and uncomfortable. And I feel like if you're not really paying attention from the get-go, you could miss some important things to the story. And so I have ideas to the story. Nothing is clear completely, but I have thoughts about what's happening. But yeah, for me, making me feel like that was the win. So that's why I like this film. But lots of people don't like experimental films, don't like analog films, don't like slower burns. And actually, this isn't a slow burn because it doesn't really have a payoff.
There isn't a burn.
So
I'm pretty sure they just ran out of film and it's like, okay, well, we're done.
and if it's just one of those things where I didn't even see the trailer before I watched the film, so I didn't know what to expect. I had heard people talking about it, about what they thought, how they thought it looked and everything, but I didn't know. So I kind of let everything go and just watched and listened. And yeah, I crazily enough was drawn in, and I felt like a kid. I felt like a kid, trapped and uncomfortable. And there's this strobe. The only light that you get mainly is like the strobe from the television, so it's almost constantly strobing. But I remember as a kid, like, I used to, I used to be up in the middle of the night watching horror movies, and so it's like that. The way the shots looked were literally things that I saw as a kid. I remember, and watching horror movies, and it just brought me back to that. And that's why I liked it. That's why I like this film. So
Well, that's
it's
fair. That's absolutely
yeah,
fair.
if that makes sense. Isn't that crazy? It's weird. I know that's weird.
I
But
think
yeah,
that might be what they're going for, actually.
yeah.
Christopher G. Mohr, the lover of independent films. What was your first impression of SKINAMARINK?
I don't know how to take that. Um, um, this is an interesting film. I know a little bit of the history of it because I know it came out. It screened at a film festival and got a little bit of buzz, and then it got part of a virtual festival or something, and somehow somebody was able to rip it, and it got bootlegged. And then it got a little bit of viral popularity because people are posting as TikToks. And I feel like this film feels like just an hour and 40-minute compilation of TikToks of creepy stuff you see on TikTok. And I think it works better in like small instances, but an hour and 40 minutes just feels like a sentient security camera system made a film. With weird, and I know it's supposed to be kinder trauma. That's why a lot of the angles are the way they are, because it's supposed to be from the point of
That
view
is
of the
what it
kids.
okay.
But again,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this film could probably be reviewed by Architectural Magazine or something, because it just shows all these corners and stuff. And I guess throughout the whole film, I kept expecting there to be some underlying thing. I even because they shot it in this really lo-fi manner, I kept thinking, well, maybe some kind of face will show up in the, the grain. No, not in the grain. There's like one part, but there's nothing. It's just they use really lo-fi ways of filming it. And it was just trying to find something in nothing. So you have this sort of like abstract, artsy style. So it's very style over substance. And but in the same way that these kids stuff kept disappearing in the house, my patience disappeared by the end of this film, because it was very repetitive in a lot of the elements. It just felt like all these different segments. And really, I'm sorry, so there's no real story to this. There's no story to this. It's just a bunch of abstractness. It's a bunch of, I mean, even by the end, it's just like, oh, let's throw this little bit in there. Let's throw that little bit in. Let's throw a little bit with a kid's phone. Let's throw a little bit in this, and let's just end it in this really weird thing. I mean, it's very lo-fi David Lynch, but more boring. So yeah, this was a slog to get through.
David Lynch.
And I see elements ways it probably could have worked better, but yeah, we talk about slow burns. This is just slow. There's no burn to it. It's just slow from beginning to end. It's repetitive. It's all the same stuff. And I mean, it just made me just like, it's so dark. And then they have, I mean, they don't even try to like record audio. A lot of audio feels like you recorded in a pail, one of those pails that the kids pooped into. And then like there's parts they just throw subtitles because they don't even have to worry about recording audio. So it feels like this feels like an art. This feels like there should have been an art installation at a museum, as opposed to like a movie, and I appreciate the style he's going for, because he really committed to it. And again, maybe this is one of those things that's better to dissect into TikToks than an actual hour and 40 movie. But yeah, by the end, I was like, I don't know what I just watched. But I would have rather watch the little cartoons on the TV.
Oh no!
What happens in this? I mean, I see the elements of that, because because we all as kids were, like when you wake up in the middle of the night and everything's dark and you have to go find your parents, you can feel that aspect of it. And I can understand when Chris was talking about that, but I think by the end, everything was so repetitive, and by the end I was like, and then even some of the scares weren't even really that great. It was just because everything's so grainy and washed out. It was kind of, it just watered down everything. So yeah.
All right. So I'm still struggling on what I think of my initial impression of this movie, because I'm incredibly frustrated with the narrative, because it's not an adult narrative. It is it almost feels like as if it was crafted from the mind of a child, right?
Exactly.
Because
That's the
it's
whole
about
point.
these and also because the POV switches from the kids to the house, right? So the house is sometimes actually watching the story of the house, looks at their feet and looks at weird things. And so the more the kids were involved, instead of just looking at a corner of the house, and they were like talking to each other, or or you could at least their flashlight was bouncing around, right? At least something that implied that they were there. The more I was into it, the more it fell away from that, the more I was like, oh my God, get over this. You could cut out. I think if you cut out a lot of that stuff, it would be a little bit more digestible. But I have a lot of this movie stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because it made me think like, what is going on? And I have all kinds of crazy theories about what it can be. And I don't think any of them are right, but I can't say
There's something about it. There's something about it.
There is something
right?
about it. But I can't say I like it.
Yep.
I can say I appreciate it. I appreciate what they were doing. But I think it fails on some crucial points of a movie, right? And I'm not in, like you said, if you go full experimental movie, then it can do whatever it wants. But for a movie where I expect some kind of narrative, this falls a little short. And it is way too long. Somebody said 70 minutes. I think that would have been
I think
perfect.
30. Can you imagine 30 minutes cut out of this? That'd be huge.
I absolutely can imagine 30 minutes cut out of it.
I can imagine more.
140 of them.
This could be 15 seconds.
And I'm going to speak for Christopher here too. We're both very upset that neither of you are sharing the drugs you're on. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
okay. So
here's the
thing.
URL.
In the beginning, you know that Kevin got hurt, right?
Well, yeah, the phone call. The dad's on the phone.
Well, no, you hear him like he's at the top of the stairs. The sound is very important in this film.
Right.
It explains a lot. Actually, I think this movie is best watched with headphones. It's
and that's
super
what I did.
creepy.
Yeah,
it's super scary. Some of the sounds and some of the unintelligent, like the some of the stuff that I couldn't understand was something I wanted to hear, but also kind of irrelevant, and I felt like it wasn't as important. But so he falls down the stairs, and the dad is on the phone, and I guess you don't really know who he's talking to, but he says that they just got back, or whatever, they got back from the hospital, and that Kevin didn't even need stitches. But I think that Kevin is dying.
Or dead.
Or
yeah.
Well, the only reason I feel like he's dying is because it starts to go through this. It's a descent down. Like they start out, the kids are there and they're kind of like watching or whatever, and then the lights. You lose the doors, you lose the lights, you lose the toilet. You start to lose first you lost the parents. You start to lose everything that you hold on to the world, and then at the end is all his toys. And then it slowly draws back from his toys. And then I don't understand what the 572 days was. I was like, surely he wasn't like in a coma or something for that long, right? I mean, I guess that's
it could have been.
That's how it feels. How long it feels watching this movie.
Like it could have been. I don't know, but it did say 572 days, and then I was like,
So I agree with you a lot, Crystal, and it could also be about abuse. Too.
Well, I was also thinking that too. Like, are the parents abusive? Is this about abandonment? Like, it just created a lot of feelings inside.
One thing that, because the sister, who is Kara? No,
Kaylee.
She says, I don't want to talk. He goes about mom. He goes, I don't want to talk about mom.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's something up with mom, right? And then mom becomes a part of the story later when she appears on the side of the bed. Now there were a couple scenes on the bed that really, really worked for me when she was on the bed.
And then the dad asking him, see, for me, it was scary without having to try. I didn't have any jump scares and it didn't need them. I felt very uncomfortable watching this. I felt more scared probably scared watching this movie than I have with any horror movie in years since I
Wow.
was probably a
Oh.
kid.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I
think
know.
this was scary at all.
See,
I was just
it-
scary that
I
this
thought
was
it-
made.
There was a sense of dread throughout the
it's
entire thing.
it's just
for me,
yeah, it was just something that like there at first when I started watching it, I was like, this is weird. I was like, and then I just kept feeling more actually like when they heard the first sound and the kid and then you just see their feet and you're like, what was that? I was like, what the fuck was that? What was that? What God, like I felt
Well,
like
I
a
mean,
kid again.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
I
feel like that. I don't get
mean,
scared like
it
that.
has that a little bit, I guess, but I found the low fineness with the sound I thought was horrible. Like it just sounded like the kid was talking next to the camera, or it was like dubbed separately, and it just took me out of the film. It just made me feel like I
Okay.
was watching
Well,
I
it's
mean,
definitely not for
literally
everyone.
like these 5 years
It's
old
not.
had made a film, and or like and, people who don't know how to make movies recorded audio on their own, and I can understand that, but it just took me out of the film totally. And I can understand I mean, I think at the very beginning, because we're all trying to get our bearings, like where is this story going, and it does feel like that with the kids, but then it wanders off, and this is like if you took the VHS movie from The Ring and you made it an hour 40 minutes. This is what this film feels
Yeah, it
like.
feels that way a lot.
I feel like because there's really nothing there. There's just moments. It's moments. There's nothing really to it.
And
For
see,
me,
I feel
and-
like the moments are all we have as people anyway.
And it does, and
well,
having
that's-
moments.
you could say that
supports-
anything.
That's how
I
we
mean,
live.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
supports Crystal's theory though, because he would be coming in and out of consciousness.
And he starts getting it
Yeah.
starts getting weirder. Everything his whole world has been literally flipped
Turned
upside down.
Yeah. I knew that was
Yeah,
coming.
it's a metaphor, obviously. Like for, I mean, to me, it's not obvious, but it's not obvious. And I get that a lot of people are not going to like this film. I think the more people that watch it, the more people are going to dislike
well,
it.
I think
Yeah,
Slash
so-
Film said people are going to give this movie 0s or going to give it 5s.
That might be true.
And that may be the case. I appreciate what they're going for with it, but I think also this is one of those films, they leave it so open-ended you can make up your own thoughts about it, and it may not be true. They might have just thrown all this
That's
shit
true.
together and it doesn't mean anything, but because everybody can find their own meaning for it, it's just
Which
it's
is-
going to live on.
Which is
is-
not
yeah.
bad thing.
No, it's not a
Uh,
bad thing, and that's why TikTok, like, oh, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen. They show these little bits and pieces from it, because I mean, I will say, like,
But I can't
you
say
mentioned there
there's
wasn't a
anything
jump scare. There was
that's
one
scary.
kind of jump scare with the hand coming around the door in the bedroom.
Yeah.
That was one
Yeah.
moment that was kind of creepy for me, and I will say, like, I expected more
Well,
with the
we also
mom and
get-
dad on the bed, but yeah.
You also get
And
the
they-
face too. The weird faces kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
without
I
the
thought that was
eye. So,
stupid.
and the demon's voice was actually
Mm.
really creepy to me. Okay. So,
It just felt like somebody with a
I took
like a sound.
Well, she wouldn't
disorder.
listen, so I took her voice away or something like that.
yes, she wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And your sister wasn't good. And then he stabbed his eye. Like,
Well,
this
it
whole
was
movie
edited
is
really badly.
super-
It didn't even sell it.
See, it did for me though,
It
because
looked bad.
yeah, and that's how
Just because it's a
everything
kid
looks
doesn't
when you're
doesn't
a-
mean
a
it's
kid.
I know,
No,
but
it's
it wasn't
just-
done well. I didn't
you-
believe it. It just looked really bad. It was like really badly edited. It looked like a bad edited scene in a movie. It just, and to me, it took away the whole any kind of worry with that for me.
And then the pictures of the kids without any heads or
Faces, that was
see,
so
and
weird.
see, I felt like that was him like losing people that have maybe been in his life. He couldn't remember their faces, and he was getting further and further away from his life. I feel like.
I just felt like they knew how to do Photoshop.
And it could also mean age-wise too. It could be that he's not a kid; he's actually an old man. Going into the last days of his life. And he's
I don't
remembering being a child.
see any of this
No,
stuff,
no,
you
no.
guys.
All right. Well, I was just thinking because you know how they.
I wish I could be on that plateau.
Wow.
I
You know
really,
Like,
I felt like I was
you know what
dying
I'm
by the
saying,
end
right,
of it. I
Crystal?
felt like I was
Yeah,
like, am I seeing the
kind of.
light?
Because you would start losing track of all the people you know, and you can't find the door.
Like
you
an
can't find,
Alzheimer's
and,
type
yeah,
thing.
yeah, seriously, Alzheimer's. And you're
Maybe
going
he's like
back to
reliving
childhood.
his
Yeah,
life
yeah.
too.
Dave, you've been awful quiet. Say something here. Defend
I
yourself.
would say maybe it's just a sucky movie. I mean, we're really trying to
Okay.
explain this
So-
away, and it's like, I mean, it's all really interesting and it's fascinating to hear all these theories, but I think at the end of the day, it was just a weird movie.
So
And
I think he's right. Like it really is going to be about what you see in it. Like I get it. They looked at it and they're like, this is the dumbest thing. And I could see that. I can see this being looked at as like a piece of poop because being completely honest, I don't know if that shot was supposed to look like that. I don't know if his intention
right.
was.
But
to
it's
have
interesting.
any
It's
of
interesting that
this.
you've seen that in Doc as well. It's interesting that both of you kind of gleamed the same thing from it, and then you got Christopher and I here going like, "What?"
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I just kept thinking, oh, there's better ways
I
to
don't know why
to
it
make
worked
this
for me.
more palatable for me and for it to. And there was just I just saw I saw a lot
But
of
maybe it just
potential.
wasn't for you.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
that's
the
fine,
point
that's
was
fine.
it was
not
just
for you.
lacking. It was lacking complete continuity for me. There was
Mhm.
nothing to tie all those images together. Nothing made sense to me.
Yeah, did not have a
Yeah,
a narrative that is,
and I guess I
fully
just
involved.
I was not interested enough to attempt to draw the lines that you two have taken the time to try to explain why it is. I just quit
Well,
caring.
And that's like, I get it. Because if I hadn't been pulled in emotionally, I wouldn't have bothered to like try to make some sense of this weird thing. Because I could have seen myself watching it just like you guys did and not. I'm like, what? Because I mean, I could even just see someone getting super bothered by the constant kind of strobing because the TV lights are kind of stroby
Yeah,
and stuff.
and TVs
Like,
don't
there's
even
a
do that anymore. I
lot.
mean, like
But
my
it's supposed to be in the 70s, so
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
see. But like my kids and my grandkids would watch that, and they wouldn't even know what that is, or why is the TV picture jumping like that? They
True.
don't do that anymore. So yeah, for
Right.
us who grew up with that, it makes sense.
Yeah,
But for,
it feels like the most abstract David Lynch type stuff, because there's even
I think it was made by his mentally challenged brother Billy.
Billy Lynch.
I don't know about that.
Billy Lynch.
But
Send all email to Dave.
yeah,
How bad would it suck if he actually has a mentally
but
challenged
there's-
brother named Billy?
yeah, because there's that one moment where you see
You're
the
digging deeper, Duddy.
where
You're
you
digging
where you
deeper.
see the blood in the
Yes,
hallway,
that was
and
weird.
it keeps going away, and it keeps
And
happens, it
see,
keeps
I
going
think
away.
that's where he fell or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but it's like the repetition again. The repetition of it just got annoying. It just felt like, oh, I need to pad this out to be an hour and a half or so, and because everything is so repetitive, and it's like, seriously, there's just such long shots of just corners of the ceiling and corners of rooms, and it just long, drawn out
But
things.
why were we
And
seeing that point of view? Is that we supposed to be looking
Because it's
from
like
the
a
kids'
kid's.
eyes?
I feel like it
everything
was
I
like
think
a
is from the
kid's.
kid's point of views,
Mhm.
which I can understand that because when a kid looks up, the ceiling's going to be really
You just
high
kinda-
or
I
going to be very
used
low
to
on the floor.
daydream. I used to daydream and just stare at.
Yeah, because when they're around the Legos, it's from their point of view playing with the Legos.
But
and
that
stuff.
one made sense, but I just couldn't understand why all the high angles looking at corners. I'm
Well,
like,
when they
always
started
looked
going
up
upside
and
down and they're
daydreamed.
on the ceiling, it's like, well,
Too.
okay, what's happening now? But
See,
that could be I can't even say it. Why don't we?
excrement? Are you trying to say
No, not
excrement?
excrement.
Okay.
I'm not. Why don't we wrap this up and give our scores 1 to
Oh,
5?
no.
And
Here
I
we go.
challenge each of you to find a favorite scene. And Dave, we're going to let you have the pickings of the entire movie.
Oh wow, lucky me.
So give us your score and your
Yeah,
favorite scene.
obviously did not care for this, but you always have to appreciate any filmmaker that manages to bring their vision to the masses. So I'm going to give it a 1 just because it manages to get made. I really think the story concept, I would love to see the story fleshed out in a different tone and a different narrative of 2 children, young children waking up and parents are gone and the house has no way of getting out. I think that idea is absolutely terrifying. And for that story to be bastardized into this just doesn't seem right to me. So I would love to see that story. I would love to see that story actually made. I'm going to give it a 1. The only scene that held any interest to me, and until we had this conversation, I didn't know who the lady sitting on the edge of the bed was. But that was creepy because, again, the way, it was low light and pixelated and really hard to make, but it was creepy. If I seen that lady sitting on the edge of my bed, I'd be pissing myself.
Yep.
So, but again, it was followed up with like these long shots to the left and then long shots to the right. And okay, what kid's going to stand there with this creepy lady sitting on the edge of the bed and look to her left and right in 30-second intervals? No, it just didn't make sense. But it did look great.
I thought you were going to pick the moment the toilet disappeared, but that's just. All right, Crystal, give us. Well, it scared me. Oh, where am I going to poop? Crystal, what was your score and favorite scene?
Okay, so here's what I want to say. This movie made me feel things that a lot of movies do not. It's not always about the gore or whatever. It's about. I felt suffocated. I felt kind of abandoned. I felt a little scared at kind of everything, every noise, everything that was happening. So it's not going to work for everyone, for sure. I think it's all about perspective. So I'm going to give it a 3.75. And my favorite scene is, this creeped me out, when the demon said it wanted to play, like, I want to play or something. Really, I did not like that at all. I was like,
not like that.
Okay, no. No. So what's going to really be interesting to me is I can't say that this filmmaker is an excellent filmmaker because of this film, because this is so experimental. What will really be the test is what they make next.
Sophomore effort,
yeah. What they make next. That'll be the real test, because this could, if I watch it again, I might think this thing is even better, and it might be just brilliant. I mean, it's something.
It's in your top 10, isn't it? It's in your top 10.
Well, since it's the first and only film. All right, Christopher G. Mohr, give us your score and your favorite scene.
Oh, well, supposedly he has 2 projects he's thinking about working on next. So I guess we'll see something. Hopefully with a bigger budget and less lo-fi cameras. This is
remake this movie.
This is more. This is more a little too art house for me. I'll just say that much. It's definitely more style over substance. It's just style. I see the potential in this, but it didn't really go where I thought it was going to go, and it didn't really go where I thought it could go to really maximize the potential of it. Because there could definitely be some really scary stuff. And this feels. I peruse a lot of the horror TikTok, and a lot of the horror TikTok stuff is sort of like this kind of lo-fi stuff. It almost feels like those lo-fi horror games too, that you see that are based around like horror characters and stuff like that. But as much as I'm a big fan of style, sometimes this is just not my cup of tea. I'll give this, or my pail of tea. I'll give this a 1.25. I'll give it an extra 2.25 because they did map out all the shots and stuff to sort of tell their story. But I think everything just gets lost in the desert of lo-fi bad audio. As for favorite scene, I guess it'll have to be the one real scary moment for me, and that's when I think he turns away from the bed and he looks down in this either bathroom or a closet, and there's like a hand that comes around the door thing, and I was like, ooh. I think if the movie was more like that, it would be. But this just feels like a bunch of stitched TikToks, which is probably why I did so well on TikTok. It just
that makes sense.
Moments do not make a movie sometimes.
All right, well, this is going to get interesting because Jeff just showed up. So as we're closing, Jeff is here, and we need to know, Jeff, what you think of this movie. So if you will, do it all. Give us your impression, give us your score, give us your favorite scene.
Well, I really wanted to hear what Crystal had to say, and I really wanted to hear what Dave had to say, because I think it probably although I probably
Dave
know
didn't have
what he
much
had
to say.
Anyway, this is going to sound weird, but this is one of those ones where I keep thinking, I should like this more. There are definitely parts that I like. In my opinion, it's way longer than it needs to be.
Yep.
But yet there are some things in there that really creep me out. So, remind me of being awake at home when nobody was up and hearing noises and stuff. And
As a kid, right?
as a kid, right. And
Mhm.
we used to lay behind the hallway door and listen to my parents out in the living room, when we were supposed to be in bed, and that, just stuff like that. And I actually had a situation once where I was home alone, and I think I was about 10, and I heard this really weird beeping noise, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I thought it was aliens or something. I was going around the house
Love
looking
it.
out
Love it.
the window, and I was laying there with the dog, hugging the dog, scared as shit. And then I walked around some more, and I finally figured out it was the phone off the hook, which literally
Oh, that.
in this movie. The
That's
phone,
true. It is in the movie.
and it
Yeah.
was doing that beep, 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 beep. So, I had to learn a little bit about this whole idea of analog subgenre that I don't really know too much about, but having read about it, I think I've seen quite a few movies that have pieces of it. But anyway, it's a completely mixed bag for me, and that's why I'm going to go 2.5. And favorite scene is going to be when I think when they show I don't even know who it was, the woman sitting on the bed.
Yep. We talked
Oh,
about that.
yeah.
The mom.
And
It
then-
was the
and
mom,
then-
right?
Mhm,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
it was the mom.
It was the
Okay.
mom.
And then she was gone. But there was a lot of stuff I didn't get. And I think, it's okay to be obtuse, but just a couple more lines here and there that were audible would have made a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But,
anyway.
the kids didn't know. The kids didn't know
Right,
what
right.
it was.
So
And they weren't
thanks for letting me in. Sorry I'm late, but couldn't be helped.
I'm glad you came.
All right. So, like I said, I'm frustrated with this movie because while I enjoy a lot of it, I agree with everybody that the narrative is just too non-narrative. It's right. It just misses a lot of things. What Jeff said, but I get it because it's the point of view of the kids, and the kids don't know the narrative, so we're seeing it through their narrative, or a narrative of somebody like a kid. If I go back to my, the one theory I had that it could be, somebody dying like a. Well, anyway, I won't go into that again. My score is 3.
Oh, nice.
And it's mainly because like Crystal, I felt that. I felt like, I don't think any other film has achieved that feeling of terror from a kid's point of view. That's a hard thing to get because it always, it's like, oh, it's those kids are scared instead of, oh my God, I'm a kid and I'm scared. There's a difference. And this gets real close to capturing that. Talk too much. Favorite scene, I'm going to say it was the phone call to 911. And
Oh yeah,
the whole
wow, I
thing
forgot
with
about
that, and that was when they were talking so low that they put the subtitles in. But it introduced an aspect of it that through what they were saying that made other bits, like it kind of exposed part of the story that we're not really getting, that we're not privy to, because he was hurt, right? He was bleeding and he was hurt. Something like that, and then she said, "Or you're hiding." And I don't know if the people ever showed up. I was waiting for them to show up, and there was times when it looked like they were going to with lights, but it ended up being the TV.
Think about this though. What if that was after he fell down the stairs? He's making actually the 911 call, but he imagines his father had taken him to the emergency room, even though his father was never there. He was alone.
Well,
He was
well,
you
if
to
you go
see like
if
like
you go to
the
my
whole-
one theory, his father's been dead for years because he's getting ready to be an old man dying in again. So, and that's why everybody was disappearing. I don't know. You can really, I would love for the Kyle Edward Ball to like get on here and type in like, You guys are so far off. It's crazy.
They should have just had a Lionel Richie song on the end, Dancing in the Ceiling.
That would have cost more than the film. All right. Well, there you go. That's our review for SKINAMARINK. It's sure to going to be a topic.
Polarizing.
Yes. As, if you have a horror friend there and you watch it, you're definitely going to have something to say about it. Right, Dave? Right? You had a lot to say about this movie. At least before the show.
It is what it is.
All right. Well, check out this review, other reviews. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Jeff, I'm glad you made it, even if it's toward the end. Thank you. Christopher, Dave, Crystal, thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Totally.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get out of here. We got another one to do. Let's say good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.